Okay. Right, we are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Emotional Awareness live discussion on a Tuesday night. And this week, I have with me the amazing guest. Sorry, we're just giggling away in the background before we come live tonight. Kai Graham. Hello, Kai. Hi.
Hello, my love. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Good.
Yes, this evening, we are going to be having an amazing discussion. For anybody who comes in and catch it a bit later, it'll be on replay. We put it on YouTube afterwards. So just come and catch it all. I'll share it across other platforms later. So if you're catching us on Facebook, watch out for the replays that you can share if you need to. Tonight's conversation is going to be amazing. I've been excited about this for the last month since we scheduled it in. Because if there is one lady I've spoken to this year who is like, we are in tune on everything we say, that is Kai. So yes, I've started this because I love talking about emotional awareness, and in particular about helping teenagers and young adults. And I've had a lot of topics on this show since November when I began the challenge. But you and I, we are on the same mission.
We are, which is quite comforting, isn't it? Because sometimes you're sort of spouting to a camera and especially in lockdown, it feels very lonely. And it's sort of, sometimes you sort of think, is it crickets, or is anyone listening, or does anyone agree with me? So to have sort of a partner in crime is quite good fun as well. It's just, we know that we're sort of speaking from the same page, really.
Yeah, I love that, partner in crime. Yeah, it does feel a bit criminal some days trying to fix it. And I think it can actually, because sometimes it's not fixing them, but empowering them to fix themselves or help themselves. But it sometimes feels awful when somebody's got to go through probably more pain and struggling and actually sometimes have to work through some quite deep emotions to come through to that place of happiness. And I think sometimes you can kind of see what they've got to go through, and it's like
You're quite right. What I found, and when it was a sort of light bulb moment for me, was, as a coach, and that, as you say, people have got to go through ups and downs, and knowing that you can get them through to the other side, but sort of seeing them teeter and not know whether or not they want to take that first step. And I was sort of, for a long time, was very much, no, I've got to help you fix yourself. I've got to help you. We've got to get the best results. And then I suddenly realized, you know what? It's that old phrase, isn't it? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And I sort of suddenly realized it's actually not my responsibility. And that sort of takes off all the pressure, really, because as a coach, you know that it's going to be all right in the end. But some people just aren't ready to take that leap just yet. And it's only when people, and this is what I say to the parents that I sort of deal with, it's only when you start believing in your child that your child can start believing in themselves. And it's a bit like that's a bit like sort of the parenting, but it's also like that for coaches. It's only when the client sort of does let's just do this, and I know it's going to get messy, but it's going to be brilliant at the end. That's when you can start making changes, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's also another element to that as well, because I always believed there was a way out for my son, but I didn't know it. So it's one thing to believe in them, but it's also finding that way to connect with them to help them believe themselves. And there's that extra level to it as well. And it's that's the bit where I struggled. It's like I knew there'd got to be a way out of depression for my son, but it's how to get him to realize that. That's where, again, I think it does come back to still working a lot with the parents and helping them. Do you find that parents ring up and they say they want you to fix the kids?
Oh, yes.
And what you need to do is work with them first and let them help their children.
But no one wants to hear that, because people see their problems, their problems as they manifest in front of them. And the problem is a child with dropping grades, or a child with anxiety, or a child sort of, kicking off and with bad attitude. And the thing is all of this is learned behavior. So where do they learn it from? To turn around and point the finger at parents and sort of say, if we fix you, then your child's going to be all right. No one wants to hear that. And a lot of people are scared of, and understandably so, are scared of taking the responsibility of actually, no, I want you to fix my child because I don't really want to see what's in the mirror. Thank you very much. So bypass me and fix them. I'll stick with what I know. And that's the thing. And yet it's really hard, because I've worked with so many kids who are then going back to a, dare I say it, toxic environment. And so it's sort of nearly back to square one. So it is, and that's what my programs are about, is it's sort of fixing what's going up with the grown-ups first, which takes a while for that penny to drop. But once it does drop, it's when you sort of see the mums or dads sort of going, oh my goodness, it's not them, it's me, isn't it? And you go, yeah. And then that's when people are ready to go, right, okay, let's just get on with it then. But
and the flip side of that, it's quite interesting actually having this conversation. I said this is going to be brilliant tonight, absolutely brilliant. On the flip side, we've got a comment. Who we got? I bet that's good evening, Yvette. Hi, glad you joined us. So yeah, on the flip side of that, with fixing parents, I always see it actually it's not just fixing them, it's empowering the parents to empower the children. So I think it's about getting that message out as well. It's not about fixing them, it's about helping the both of them or helping them together. But on the flip side, having been that mother with a child who was in school, who was struggling, and I knew I needed to find a way to help my son through depression, but everybody's saying, oh yeah, but you just need parenting and stuff, and you need to do this and you need to chill out and you're an overprotective mother. That's no advice whatsoever that actually helped me cure his depression. It just put me in it as well. So it's about avoiding actually making things worse as well, isn't it, along the way?
And I think the thing is, I mean, as you rightly sort of said, it's the parents wanting to make a difference. But the thing is that you don't know what you don't know, because if you knew what to do, how to do it, you would have done it by now. Exactly. So I think the trick is educating yourself and learning and understanding, because sometimes it's a matter of, well, you're going to have to sort of put yourself into your child's shoes, and it's, oh God, I don't know if I want to do that, thank you very much. But it's only when you start empathizing and understanding and go, oh crikey, whoa, and then the penny drops, and then you know what you need to know to try and guide them through whatever it is. But it's a learning curve for all of us, and that's the thing.
Absolutely. And that word empathy is very different to sympathy. So it's about not going, oh, they're really sorry, you're going for that. It's like you said, it is about understanding it from their point of view. And so many different quotes and authors. I mean, I still think Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Yeah. That part in there about understand before being understood was a massive lesson for me. And I learned from one of my managers it was one of the managers at work had told another manager. It was the general manager told another manager, and he told me about the book, and I went and read it. And I actually sat and read that chapter with my son, and it did help a bit. It didn't get him out of the depression, but it got us talking a bit. But there was still more missing. There was still a lot.
Yeah, but you've got to start the ball rolling, haven't you? It's baby steps. I mean, I sort of say to my parents that it doesn't matter who you are, what age you are, where you come from, whatever. As individuals, we have 3 basic needs. Now, let's put aside the security and fed and nourished and all that sort of stuff. But our 3 basic needs are to be loved, to be understood, and to be respected. And understanding is a biggie. And, it's when you sort of hear the kids who say, oh, you just don't get me. And they don't. Parents don't, because, it's a different world. The goalposts have changed since we were young. We would never taught, for blimmin' heck's sake, how to communicate with anyone, let alone a stroppy teenager. And so it's a matter of us validating our kids, how they're feeling. Come on, we all want a bit of that. I mean, as you sort of said, as a mum who was struggling with a son with depression, you don't want to hear sort of say, oh, you're mollycoddling him, or pull yourself together, or it'll be fine. You don't want it. And the first thing is to just have that voice, and to have someone hear you, and to have someone sort of go, oh my God, I get it. And that's sort of what our kids are looking for. They need to feel validated. They need to feel understood. And that I would say that's a real biggie, other than being loved and, the sort of whether or not it's unconditional or conditional love, but just to know that your parent or your loved one or whoever, it doesn't really matter, sort of gets you and has your back and knows what you're going through. They might not sort of fully relate to it, but at least they can sort of understand what your struggles are, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point sometimes, is about sharing the struggles both ways. I mean, my son, one of the things he said to me was, I don't want to trouble you with my things. You've got enough on your plate. And it was like about making that clear with him, actually. When he doesn't tell me things, that worries me anyway. And I stress more because I know he's worried about something and I don't know what it is. At least if he tells me, we can work through it together, or, I can perhaps offer some support. But like you said, sometimes it is about actually being honest with them about how they're making you feel. But again, using that empathy, not blame, isn't it? About avoiding blame, or, not you've made me feel like this.
Well, I think that's the problem, isn't it? Is that, because I sort of do say to parents, steer clear of sort of saying to your kids, this is how you've made me feel, because that automatically puts the responsibility, your happiness, your sanity, your well-being, it puts the responsibility back onto the kids, which is really not fair. And so it's a matter of, this is how I'm feeling. Yeah, totally. But it's not how you made me feel. But I mean, I've got, my son has his own mental health issues as well. And which sounds very similar to sort of, you and I are in the sort of same sort of boat, in that if you don't tell me, it still really worries me. It's still, so I'd rather, I think it's about sort of control, isn't it? I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean in a way that once you have knowledge, you can start taking action. But if you've got all this uncertainty, or you don't know what the heck's going on, then you can't really do anything. And I don't like that feeling of having my hands tied and feeling powerless. I'd rather sort of go, oh, okay, now we know, right, let's just do something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, for them, it's also like they've gone from this child phase where sort of like everything's done for them, mummy bit, and you try to get them to grow up and sort of develop little bits of independence. But all of a sudden, they're just faced with these years where so many things in life become independent, and it's so much, and they're kind of told to do this and told to do that and got to do that, got to go to school. But they don't always understand why they're doing it. And I think that can become really overwhelming. And one of the things I always, whenever I give my kids instructions, will say why I needed them to do something, or what consequences were if they didn't. I don't mean like, if you don't go and wash up, you're going to get sent to your room for a week. Not those kind of consequences. But, if it's like, why do you go and do business studies at college,
Yeah, exactly.
And there would be a lot of parents out there will say, oh, no, you've got to do this and you should learn that. And you must do that. But it's, and we get that they want their kids' best interests at heart. But it was always things like, with my children, both of them, when they went to sixth form, they only did a year. But I said to them, if you do business studies, I said, the point is, the reason for doing it is in the future, if you're not working for somebody else, you can work for yourself.
Yeah.
Or better still, if you're not working for yourself, you will be working for somebody else. Yeah. I said, so one thing is, I said, it empowers you that if you decide to run your own business for any, I said, no, basically, if you're working with somebody else, it puts you a step ahead. I said, and if for any reason you can't get a job, you've got the skills to work for yourself. So I said, it's one of those simple subjects, but it's, they did both agree to do it, but it's just putting them that little step ahead, but giving them a reason, not just you should do it because it's the done thing. And that goes across all aspects of life, I think.
There's lots of kids that I see who are struggling because they are following mum and dad's will, hope, dreams, expectations rather than their own, which I think is a real shame. And I think it's important to not live our own lives through our children. It's quite important to, I've seen many sort of situations where, sort of kids are just miserable, not being able to do what, sort of what they are passionate about. There's a young client I was sort of seeing, she was taking her trying to make her GCSE choices, and the mum would sort of go, now you've got to take all 3 sciences because that'll keep the doors open, and the child was sort of going, oh no, seriously? And yes, whilst mum is right, the point is what I say to kids is you've got to choose what you love the best, because on a wet Thursday morning when you've got to get out of bed, at least you will know that you're getting out to bed for something that you enjoy. And, so that's pretty important.
Yeah. It's funny, actually, because I had a very similar case a few years ago when I first tried running a business. I had a couple of clients, and it was a young girl who's separate, divorced parents. And the dad was the one saying, you should go and do this particular one. You should do this topic, academic at university. And the girl's saying, but I want to do hairdressing. And the mum's saying, I just wanted to do what makes her happy. And the mum offered to pay for as much therapy as you needed, or, as many sessions, mentoring. And I did 2 sessions with her. And I sort of basically talked her through, well, talk to me about how you feel about each of these topics. And she obviously had been to uni. She tried going to uni, didn't get on well with the academic ones. She loved doing the hairdressing as a part-time job on weekends. And then I said, so if you did that topic at uni, where would it lead to? And she went on to about something quite unique and specific in one of the sciences, but her eyes lit up.
Oh,
and I
bless
think
her.
you feel good about that, don't you? But I think she was resistant to doing it because her dad was telling her to.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
what I loved was, I said to her, now look at it both ways as a long-term result. If you do your hairdressing first and then wish you'd have gone to uni, what are the chances of you actually following that through? She said, very slim. I said, okay, so if you go to uni first and then you decide that that path isn't the right, what's the chances of going back into hairdressing? She said, well, that'll be easier. And it was just taking them through those little options and sometimes just talking it through in a logical route. And so I only did 2 sessions with her. She made her mind up. No, it's in her since.
Yeah, well, that sounds
really.
yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah. And I think it's important. I think it's important also for, you see, we were brought up with you need a job for life, children should be seen and not heard, money doesn't grow on trees, all that sort of stuff. That's what we were fed, and there's all our limiting beliefs. Our kids now have a very different mindset, thankfully, and my sort of kids are, I basically, their dad is a bit sort of get something stable, so at least, if you've got a plan B, you've got one. And I'm going, oh no, just do whatever sort of floats your boat. But I think the thing is, the world's a much more forgiving place as far as that's concerned, because my daughter, we were sort of sitting there the night before her A-level results, and she went, don't shout at me. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know the bad news is coming. And she went, I don't want to go to uni. And she had a place at Exeter. And I went, okay, so you don't want to go to uni. What? Are you just hedging your bets in case you're at A-levels? She went, no. Whatever my A-level results are, I don't want to go. And I went, okay, that's fine. Great. So she took a gap year and did something else and then went back and did hospitality. And she loved it. And she did that and she came out with a first. And hurrah, that was a good decision not to go and do business studies at Exeter. Hurrah. And then she came out of sort of uni with her first under her belt and she went, now, don't shout at me. And I'm going, oh, seriously? And she sort of said, I don't want to go and do hospitality. And it was like, both Mike and I were twitching. It's like, but the world's your oyster. You've got to blooming fight. She went, no, don't want to do it. Really, really don't want to do it. And so it's okay, fine. So she did another U-turn and this was a couple of years ago. And she went into HR instead, which, let's say, thankfully, because we've had a blimmin' pandemic and the hospitality industry, bless it, is on its knees at the moment.
Wow, yeah.
So, these things happen for a reason. And I think life has a funny way of sort of adjusting your sails, whether or not you want to be woo-woo about it or not. But I think, I think our kids nowadays are allowed to be a lot more flexible. If you see on a CV someone's only spent 18 months on a career, it's not sort of sucking of teeth and you're a failure. It's just sort of, oh, okay, so you just decided to, went to just retrained and did something else. And they're allowed to do that. So regardless if you've changed your mind about GCSEs, A-levels, you might not want to go to uni, you want to do a job or whatever it is. I think we're allowed to do that. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, say there's always opportunities now to get back into uni, although it's more expensive if you've left school or over 18 and whatever. But there are possible. I mean, I've seen loads of stuff on like LinkedIn and stuff lately where people in their 50s are, now going and getting the doctorates and all sorts of studies and things. These days it's probably sometimes better to go and have your family first and then decide what you want, and just work and then later. I've decided I wanted to rush off and have the family first, but
I've decided to do a bit of not a U-turn. It's totally related to what I do. But in the January sales, there were a load of online courses, and I got a psychology. I don't even know what it is, a diploma or doctorate. I don't know. I don't even know what it was, but it was knocked down from £3,500 to £50. And I sort of thought, this is because these companies are needing to make money because in other areas they can't. So, I mean, that was just fantastic. And so I've got all these sort of new training courses. Well, I mean, okay, admittedly, some of them might take, it's a year's course or a whatever. But how cool is that? And, you can sort of do that on the sidelines. So why not? Because I don't, and I think the thing is if you decide to do a bit of learning later in life, be it 25 or 55, I think you're sort of going at it with a thought in your head that this is something I've chosen to do rather than mum and dad made me. So I think it's sort of, I think we're sort of slightly more open to learning a bit more, if it's a choice that we've made rather than we feel pushed down that road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I must admit, for me, I wouldn't have had a clue when I left school that this is what I want to be doing now. I had no idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had no idea at that point that actually my future potential would come out of actually having my son. You can't foresee everything. Absolutely not. And like you say, for a lot of women as well, we leave school, we build up a career, and then you have a family. And for not everybody wants to be running a family and a career. For me, I wanted to be that stay-at-home mum. And then again, unforeseen, even though I was a stay-at-home mum, I got my kids into school, I started working part-time, and then I ended up having to take Matthew out of school and home educate him for the next 7 years. So there's career gone out the window again instantly. So
but I think that's it. And the nice thing is the fact that we are able to, as I said, adjust the sails accordingly, aren't we? So my darling husband sort of uses a phrase, you have to play the ball as it lies. And I mean, that's sort of what happened to me, is the fact that I wanted to have it all and do everything. And I wanted to be it was the sort of, early 90s. And I wanted to be the career woman and the mum and the everything. And, and I fell between two stools because I had a female boss actually that wasn't particularly understanding when Alice one day got chicken pox and wasn't allowed into nursery, and I didn't have the support I needed, and she just wasn't as kind and forthcoming, as I had hoped. And so I just threw my teddy out the cot and left that day. And it was sort of so that was, me being a bit hot-headed, but it helped me realize, oh no, hang on a minute, here are my priorities. And I did, I was like you, I sort of was a stay-at-home mum for a while. And then sort of just hit there's more to life than the school run. So, I sort of, and so reinvented myself again. And so, we're allowed to, it's fine. And it's also quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's a really good TEDx talk. It was a lady who spoke on stage the same day as I did, Marianne Cantwell, and she's got a talk about being liminal. It's something about not fitting in. And she pretty much does she's got a 20-minute long TEDx talk about this whole process about continuously reinventing yourself through life. And that, very inspiring to hear that. I've got a book up there somewhere. I did a review on it one day. That's right, Be a Free Range Human. That was the one.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, Be a Free Range Human. And I loved that book. And I could do reading it again actually right now, because that's what I'm trying to fit into at the moment. But it's
it's hard, isn't it, when you're sort of trying to work out where you fit in and what you should be doing. I mean, from a business point of view, I've been sort of doing, right, I need to do this, and you're sort of permanently looking at people who are 2 or 3 sort of steps ahead of you, or maybe way ahead of you, and you think, what have they done and how can I do it? And it's only then I sort of suddenly realize it's like walking through treacle, and what am I doing wrong? And you suddenly think, do you know what? You can do what the heck you like, and you can do it your way. You don't have to follow someone else's rules. No. And that's sort of quite fun, because then you just sort of, it's one of my coaches goes sort of go, why are you doing it this way? And I said, well, I've joined this program and this is what I've been done. This is step number 25 and a half or whatever.
I hear you.
I said, this is your own business. You can do what you like, love. And it was, oh my goodness. Yeah, that sounds quite cool. So yeah,
I've been going through that process the last few weeks, trying to set everything up. And like you say, you sign up and you see all these challenges online. We're going to do it. And it's like, if we're getting overwhelmed, we're trying to make choice over one job, one role. Exactly. And it's like, when we know what role we're doing.
Well, precisely. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that treacle feeling. I've been exactly right in the thick of that the last few weeks. But like you said, it's about being authentic as well. And it's about helping, taking this whole process and paying it forward, about being authentic. And how can somebody grow up leaving school wanting to be authentic when they're finding it hard to find out who they even are?
Yeah.
And if we're struggling,
yeah.
it's, so it is about finding that way to share that forward. But yeah, same here, trying to find a way where it's like it's not got to be through ClickFunnels and not got to be done this way. Not, if I don't like other people advertising it to me that way, I don't want to be doing it that way.
You're quite right. But I think the thing is we get sort of in that spiral, don't we? And it doesn't really matter what, if you've got a problem, it doesn't really matter where you're looking for the solution. But sometimes you just really need to stop and go, what does in here say?
Yeah.
Because actually, I mean, I'm an NLP master practitioner, and we know that, everything, we all have the resources within us. They're there. They just might need to be dug out. Now, hence, that's why sort of coaches come in, isn't it? There's the coach sort of helps you find the solutions for yourself. But invariably, it's just a matter of, rather than blindly following someone else's rules, and whether or not it's ClickFunnels or whatever it is, it's, and it's also, this is what I say to my parents is, I have got so many tools in my toolbox, and I can help you whichever way. But if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. I mean, you know your child better than I do, and whether or not that'll work with your child, and whether or not it'll work with the family. So don't just because Kai Graham says so isn't a reason that you should do it. Now, it's worked for lots of people, but if solution A doesn't work, then there's solution B, C, and D. So it's just trusting your instincts.
Free to try. But if it's free, it's free to try all the different strategies and keep going and never giving up. But giving up and not trying any of them could be quite costly.
Yes, exactly. But I think this is what we have to teach our kids as well. So, let's get back onto the subject of emotional awareness. The fact that kids often are scared to try. They're scared to give stuff a whirl because they might be judged. God forbid they get it wrong. And it's sort of, they need to sort of, they're peering at Instagram where everything's perfect. They're peering at their mates sort of thinking, well, they've all got it together. Why haven't I? And I think quite often it's that reluctance to just roll up your sleeves and give it a whirl. And I sort of say to them, there's no such thing as failure. It's only feedback. And it's a matter of just keep trying, keep giving something a whirl, whether or not it's asking someone out on a date or writing the next chapter of your book or launching a podcast, whatever age you are, or, just sort of riding your bike. I mean, toddlers, when they were trying to walk, they didn't sort of fall over sort of twice and go, oh, no, this isn't for me. I'm not going to do this. They just keep on going, and they sort of adjust the sails, and they sort of, work out, okay, well, that didn't work. So let's try something else that might be better. And I think that's what we need to encourage our kids to build their emotional resilience, is to allow them to make mistakes, because that's when they learn. They're not going to listen to us and sort of go, oh, well, experience tells me that if you do it this way, it's going to work. Well, that they're not really going to listen to us. So it's only by trying stuff out.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, like you said, that very often parents will say, well, I could have told you that wasn't going to work. That's instantly a judgment. And again, it makes them afraid to try the next thing. So it's, again, it's also about helping support the parents, support the children. It's like, okay, it didn't work. And saying to, parents, please tell them it's okay to fail. Don't judge them. Don't tell them it's wrong. But, it's okay to fail. That's learning. Fail? First attempt in learning. That's what it stands for, isn't it? First attempt in learning, or fail forward. I think, that was a huge lesson for me. Because I was always afraid of failing. Judgment and opinions, and I now still get a lot of the judgments and opinions. My parents still haven't learned, but I had to learn to override that over the years. So sometimes we've got to push that end of it and say, no matter what the parents say, you've just got to do your thing anyway.
I think you and I are quite similar. Both of us in sort of lockdown decided, oh, well, sod this, let's just get on and try something. And you did your 28 days and then went on to do this. And I just launched a podcast with 2 days notice. And I think the thing is that I got to the stage, and probably like yourself, is that I sort of sat down and thought, oh my God, I could do a podcast. Right, well, why don't I tell you what? It's the end of March. Let's launch it on the 1st of April. And I didn't even give myself any sort of thought about, well, what happens if? It was just, let's just see what happens. And I think when you don't take life as seriously as you sometimes feel you have to, then what's the worst that can happen? I launched 3 episodes and it dies a death. Well, okay, but at least I tried it. And actually, I'm now 49 episodes in and I'm having a lovely time. But, I think the thing is that, and you were just one of those guests very recently. But,
yes, thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, I think sometimes we just need to take the pressure off ourselves, don't we? And just sort of go, well, let's just give it a whirl. And the thing is, when we do that, we are being a role model for our kids who are sort of going, oh my gosh, well, if they can do it, and maybe I can give it a whirl too. So
I think I'll pop the link in the chats afterwards for the podcast as well. So because I appeared on your podcast too. It was released last Tuesday, wasn't it? It's been out a week.
Yeah.
So, brilliant.
Yeah. All about your
mine at 2 days' notice. I did the 28. We're now on the 10th one of these. That's 38 episodes in already. It's like, where did time fly?
Exactly.
Quick. Yeah.
Well, it's scary, isn't it? Because next month we will have been in lockdown for a year. Well, not quite lockdown, but we've had this wretched stuff going. Well, it's been going on for a year anyway, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has really. Yeah.
But I think the thing is, and for many people, it's been a real struggle. But for many others, it's created opportunities. It's created an opportunity to do something totally different. It's created opportunities for us to sort of be slightly more introspective. And what are the important things in life, because they don't necessarily have to be getting the grades that we want or getting that big deal that we need or meeting X number of clients every day, because that sort of way of working's gone out the window for a bit. And so it's just given us the opportunity. I mean, I sort of suddenly realized I quite like growing vegetables. Well, go figure, because I used to laugh at my mum for doing that. And it's just lots of different things where we're able just to try something different.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I've lost my garden. I don't have a garden now. I had a massive garden last year, and now I haven't got one at all. So I've got window plants. That's my company now.
A friend of mine, he was moving sort of right in the middle, so he lost his garden for a while and went into rented accommodation, and he had sort of basically a bench, picnic bench sitting outside his sort of window. And so he decided, right, I'm going to have a vegetable patch. So he got loads of beer cans. And so he had craft beer cans with lettuce growing out and sort of things like that. It was fabulous. And the wonderful thing was that he sort of inspired. And actually, in truth, I looked at him and I thought, God, if he can grow a lettuce in a beer can, then there's no excuse. I've got to get on with it. And that's what I did. So it was really quite good fun. So, yeah. Yeah,
I think the only thing I can do is find somewhere to put a green wall somewhere, but I haven't got much wall space left, and I don't know how well I go down with the landlady if things grow up my wall. Yeah, all good fun. But lots of things we can inspire teenagers to do the same, but just do it for fun. If it doesn't work out, don't do it again. But it's experimenting.
It's give it a whirl and see, see what floats your boat and what you can do, and just. And also how you can do things differently. We don't always have to do it the same as everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, you saying about doing things differently. My quote is, "Mastering life is all about mastering change."
Yeah,
and if 2020 isn't the year to highlight that, I don't know what is.
Well, I was going to say exactly, because we've had to. If I hear that word pivot one more time, I think I'll throttle the cat. But it's very relevant, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And for a lot of people, there's changes that have happened that have actually stopped progress. And I think that's one of the biggest causes of mental health issues, has been stopping progress. And then it's about how to then find a way to create changes to overcome that. And believe me, if I don't know any better than being stuck with being in the middle of separation, which took a year because of first the Brexit, then the lockdown.
Yeah.
Being stuck with trying to sell the house because of the processes of them, having lost my job and finding it difficult to get a new job. And it's like being stuck in all of those and not being able to progress because of the lockdown. My goodness, being put in limbo for only one of them was stressful, but the 3 together was just horrendous.
And yet there was another area where you absolutely skyrocketed. So, you wrote your book and
3. Champagne cork going off. You're not stopping me now.
But So I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is that if you don't, we can find other avenues. It's that sort of wheel of life, isn't it, that we do with coaching, and you sort of you look at the different areas of your life, and okay, there are some places where you get stuck, or there are some places that need improvement, but there are some places where you can actually work on and do something about it, and that's sort of, I think, where it empowers us to make change and to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and to be able to, be it for teenagers to find their own independence, whatever it is. They might be stuck under the same roof as mum or dad or their student mates or whatever it is. But I mean, I've got one chap who I was speaking to, and he's just decided, well, blow this, I'm going to launch a podcast. Hooray! And he's 17, and why not? Because he's sort of, he's sort of stuck. So he may as well just try and do something that interests him. So it's cool to be able to just look at areas where you could do something that actually maybe real life, had it been going on as normal, might not have presented those opportunities.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's like my nieces. I try to sort of persuade or encourage them to do something, and they don't want to be on camera. But I said, well, things like videos of your cats. People make a fortune out of doing videos of their cats, but they haven't done anything with it, sadly. Sort of tried to support them, but not everybody wants to do it or got the mentality to do it. But I think, like you said, when you're in limbo, and I think the first thing is, I always think the most important thing out of all of this conversation is the awareness. And is actually, when you are stuck in limbo, things have changed, whatever it is, being aware of it. Because the minute you're aware of it, that's where it gives you the power to do something about it. And it's like, knowing I was stuck last year meant that I could plan ahead mentally for when the time came that I wasn't stuck, what the actions would then be, and planning towards that. Whereas if I didn't have that awareness of why I felt like I did, I wouldn't have made the plans I made for when I was finally able to do it. And I think that's the thing, is having that awareness is such an important thing. So how do you get, from your point of view, because I've written the book, and you've written a book, the Teen Toolbox, which I've downloaded. I've started reading. It's like, we are so in tune. It's amazing. How do you get them to that awareness state to start with? That was the biggest thing I had challenged my son was. You're quite right, because I had a dream the other day, and it was because my family are avid skiers. I've got 2 kids, and they're both ski instructors, so we're missing the fact that we can't go skiing. And I had a dream about it, and it was I got sort of separate. I'm not very good on the mountains, so I sort of tend to stick close to them because I haven't a blimmin' clue. And they go, "Oh my God, let's go over there to this run." And we might have been to the resort 2 or 3 times before, and I still couldn't have told you, even if we'd skied that run yesterday. I really am that bad. So I had this dream, and suddenly I peered around and everyone had gone, and it was time to get back, and I had no notion of how on earth to get back, and it really quite scared me. And I was sort of sitting there literally all at sea, because I just had no idea if it was right or left. I had no idea what resort I was in. I had no idea if there was a bus stop close by, or if I had to get a taxi. I sort of suddenly realized, oh, come on, you silly woman. This is your coaching hat that you need to put on. And it's a bit like if someone sort of says, right, listen, you need to get to Glasgow. Well, yeah, but it just depends. That's all well and good. But if you don't know where you are, how on earth do you get to Glasgow? And it was like this. It was, and it is. And it was where I was on this blimmin' ski resort. It said, if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you need to go. And so it really is. And that's whether or not it's teaching a son with depression, whether or not it's teenagers wanting to know what their career choices are, whether or not it's, I don't know, shall I leave my relationship? It doesn't really matter. Let's just sit and work out where we are. And actually, that can be really uncomfortable sometimes. That even sitting and acknowledging, well, this is what's happening to me. This is what, this is what I'm doing every day, or this is what I'm having to do, or this is what I don't like doing, or this is how I feel. And it's all those things when you sort of suddenly write, okay, now I'm aware of what I'm doing. Now I can acknowledge that this is where I am right now. And let's not beat ourselves up, because, I should have done it differently. That doesn't matter.
Whatever you've done has brought you to where you need to be right here, right now. And now you know where you are, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever. Then you can go, right, okay, well, I'd quite like to go over there, thanks. Okay, well, how are you going to get there? Be it Glasgow, or be it out of a relationship, or be it studying for a master's. That's when you can start going, oh, right, here are the baby steps. And it was only when I realized that I suddenly realized that I could just sort of get out of my ski resort hell and go and find where I needed to be. But it's funny because, as you say, it's needing to be aware of the current situation so that you can work out where the next place is.
Absolutely. And I think we had a similar conversation in the podcast the other week, because I was talking about the little, get the right hand, talking about the little, okay, there we go, little emotional cycle here. And I said, I can never do it right because all back to front and weird.
Yeah.
And looking at it is on my left over there. But when, you imagine picking anywhere on there, but saying, I want to get to the place at the very top, the happiness.
Yeah.
But like you said, the journey you take depends on where you're starting. What if you're starting in the red but near the middle, or in the red further down towards the black, or over in the blue? So wherever you are, you're going to want a different journey, whether it's emotionally or physically. But you don't know how to plan your journey unless you know where you're beginning. And I remember we talked about rock bottom as well, because I said rock bottom is just that point when you realise, for whatever journey it is, and rock bottom can be completely different depth for everybody for different situations, and it's merely that point where you realize, hang on a minute, this has got to stop getting any worse, and you've got to turn it back up. It's about following around that little cycle on that side, it's about following that all the way around, and if you realize it's not actually happiness that gets lost, because that's still at the top on the map, that doesn't change, that's like the north part, head true north. When people say true north, and that's where I've put it up the top, but it's just realizing that that's still there. It's actually yourself that's lost, not the happiness.
Totally
finding that way back. So like you said, awareness. If you're not aware that you're lost, you could still just keep walking and walking and walking in the wrong direction, and then become more and more and more lost. But eventually you'll always hit that rock bottom point where you go, well, hang on a minute, I'm lost. And then if you don't know where you are, I mean, I likened it to a journey in the book. If you've gone on a journey and you've genuinely got lost, and then you get your map out, you still can't plan your journey home until you know where you are, because the directions mean nothing. So being aware is absolutely crucial.
And it can take some time to work out.
That's
I'm still trying to work it out. Yeah, well, that's it. That's the start of the process, really, isn't it? It's just sort of working out, okay, well, this is what my reality is at the minute.
Yeah. And I think it's also breaking it down to a sense, because it's like being lost. Is like you might be on track with one thing, like your health, for example, which I'm not. But you might be on track with one thing, but lost with something else.
Yeah.
You could be lost with finances and got a bit overwhelmed with that, but you could be on top with something else. So I think there's also one thing is recognizing that being lost isn't always being lost with everything.
I think, and this is what I said in my book as well. Is if you think about the British cycling team, when Dave Brailsford took them over, I mean, they were really bad, to the point that one of the sponsors, or I think it was one of the bike manufacturers, said, please don't advertise that you use our bikes because we don't want people to know. I mean, that's pretty dire. And so what he did, rather than sort of go, right, okay, we're going to step it all up and you guys are going to sort of be fantastic at X, Y, and Z, he basically looked at every area of the way the team worked and every area of, as individuals and as a group. And he sort of incrementally built up or made improvements, sort of tiny baby steps. So he might have looked at their nutrition and realized, well, those snacks have got to change. Or he might have looked at their sleep habits and go, all those mattresses have got to change. Or he might have looked at, sort of even the fact that, their cool down sort of procedures. And he basically just incrementally got sort of 1% better in each of the areas. So it wasn't sweeping changes. It was just tiny changes. And I think that's what we can learn from, if it's maybe sort of have a better sleep routine, so go to bed 15 minutes earlier than normal, or whatever it is, so that we don't have to make grand gestures. It doesn't have to be sweeping. But, this guy, he pulled them up and made 1% changes across the board. And within a number of years, they were winning Tour de France and they were getting gold medals and you name it. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen sort of, overnight. But these tiny changes have that ripple effect, don't they? And you can make huge incremental changes across the board. And that's a bit like us in life. We don't have to sort of say, oh, my health regime is appalling, and therefore, it's just lots of little changes everywhere that start making a big difference.
Oh, absolutely. I get that. I mean, I'm just in the process of signing up to do something similar with my health, to make lots of different changes. It's not about just going on a diet and exercising.
Yeah.
It's like you said, about looking at sleep and nutrition and diet, and not going on a diet, but looking at my diet. Food intolerances, all these sort of things, blood glucose management, the lot. So I'm going to do that, like the whole health screening, and then just build changes in over time, rather than go in and go like massive dietary change and then come back off and crash the other end. I've had enough of doing that over the years. So I'm taking like you said, the better approach,
isn't it?
Yeah. And then doing the same with other areas of life. So it's about realizing, there's always room for improvement, always.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it's just inspiring other people, parents as well, mostly, from this show, inspiring parents to always be looking, like you said, for that 1%. I mean, 1% a day after a year is like 365%, which is beyond what we'd normally talk about in percentages. But it is about just continually making small changes, and they add up really quickly.
It's a bit like sort of, if you sort of looked at yourselves and sort of thought, well, do you know what I do? Let's say an hour or two of scrolling every day, and I sort of sit here and do this, and suddenly an hour's gone and it's just a bore. And then I sort of go, oh no, I'm not, better do something sensible. And then and then they say, well, another hour's gone. And if you just sort of, rather than just sort of sit there and go, well, you've got to stop scrolling altogether, I mean, why not do something like, I don't know, put a timer and sort of go, well, put just for 15 minutes or for half an hour or whatever, and then use that time to learn a language or start reading a book, or because if we use that time for, let's say, if you gain back half an hour to an hour a day, look how many hours you can allocate. Look how many you will achieve by the end of the year. And then you might have created a new skill. You might have learned something totally different. And it's just by doing little baby steps and not sort of thinking, I shall learn the saxophone. You don't have to do that. But it's just incrementally, those things can, just by taking back a bit more of control and taking back a little bit of time, you can, do something sort of pretty cool and quite worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also looking at when you get stuck with scrolling and things like that, I think it also can be, one thing is you get engrossed in what you're doing, and the other one, it can be in like an avoidance strategy or a coping strategy. So depending on what's going on. And certainly for teenagers, I know that can be a big thing, getting stuck on screens and gaming and Xboxes, Game Boys, I'm thinking. And that's powerful. And I think actually it brings me around to another topic, which I think is really important to touch on, is when we're talking about awareness from a parent's point of view. I see way too many videos on YouTube where parents are talking about suicidal awareness after they've lost a child. And I think it is the worst situation to have to be doing those videos in. Rather than me, I was very fortunate that I was able to help my son through. I was able to save him from all of that and get to a point where we've got some good news to share for emotional awareness, like he's recovered, rather than it being a too late video. And I think it's so sad to see parents going through that. It's so courageous that they're able to get up there and talk about it so openly and say to people, look, don't end up where we are. And my heart goes out to them. But I just think it's so sad that it's come that far for them before they've been able to say, right, I hadn't seen the signs. So I think one of the things that's really, so I'm going to sneeze in a minute. I know it's coming. Oh, it's making me eyes water, and I'm sort of trying to hold it in. Right. Catch me by surprise when it does now. So yeah, I think it's really important is saying about this awareness of depression is if people don't see the signs, is what are the signs? And like I said, it could be simple things like they're stuck on a phone, and when you'd say, come on, get off your phone, it's like, oh, no, that can be that small, can't it?
Well, I mean, interestingly, because I've got the right that I'm rewriting. Well, not rewriting, but I'm republishing it because I'm linking up with Papyrus, who are the UK suicide charity, and their aim is to reduce suicide rates of the young between whatever and 35 years old. And in my book, and I talk a bit about anxiety and emotional awareness, but I didn't actually mention suicide at all. And they sort of went, well, if you're partnering up with us, you really need. Oh yeah, point taken. Yeah. And so I'm writing a chapter about that. And I think the thing is that we sort of, be it parents or whatever, but we really don't like talking about the uncomfortable things, and it could be sort of, I don't know, asking for a promotion, or it could be talking about sex, or it could be talking about money, religion, politics, or whatever. And let's talk about suicide and feelings. And I think the thing is that we don't like talking about uncomfortable things. But my question is, well, what's the alternative?
Yeah.
Because the alternative's unthinkable. Yeah. So I think the thing is that it's keeping the door open and saying, here for you, buddy, I want to talk to you. Or if you don't want to talk to me, who do you think might be able to support you? It could be sort of, I don't know, a school person, it could be the GP, it could be a pastor, it could be your uncle, it could be whoever, it doesn't really matter. But as long as I think we all need someone to vent with, we all need someone even just to sit in silence with, but just so we feel valued, just so we feel heard, just so we feel as though our feelings are okay. And I think that the trick is just to, I think for parents, the tricky thing is, well, I don't know how to fix it, or I don't know what to say. And invariably, that's not what you're needed for. You are needed to sit and listen, or maybe just sit in silence and just be comfortable with not being the one that has to have all the answers, because you don't have to have all the answers. There are professionals for that. You can go and phone Samaritan's Childline, Papyrus. There are professionals for our kids. But I think the thing is, now this is I think I've got the percentage right, but it's out of all the suicide rates are appalling at the minute. But if a child has one significant adult to speak to about their feelings, it reduces, if a suicidal child, it reduces the chance of them actually taking their own life by 92%.
Wow, that's a figure I did not know. No. But that's powerful.
I did a suicide training, so someone, they told me that, and I just thought, oh my goodness. So this is why we don't have to solve problems. We don't have to solve problems. We just need to be there to show someone that we have their back, to show them that, no, we're not judging you, to show. And the thing is you sort of say, well, what do we need to look out for? What symptoms? Of course, there are, their grades are dropping, or they're introverted, or they're not coming out of their room, or they're, blah, blah. But there are also other signs. If you really do have a suicidal member of your family, it can be a total, flip, in that suddenly they're a lot brighter. Suddenly they're a lot happier. Suddenly, because, and I know this is uncomfortable to say, they have potentially made that decision that they want to end their own life, and that for them is, oh my gosh, I'm going to get peace finally. So it's not just look for the ones that have had a doom and gloom, it's look for the others that have suddenly gone really all of a sudden. I'm not saying someone that's managed to pull themselves out of it and are making progress on a daily basis. And you can tell with some, it's like, whoa, they're better already. No. That's another alarm bell, just to sort of, to watch out for. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually, because I had a boyfriend many years ago. Well, it was after I dated him, about a year or two after, but a couple of years later, after we'd split up, that his parents were moving or something, and while they were moving, he said, "Oh, I'm going away for a bit." And he gave one friend his records, another one a guitar, left his bike with someone else, and he never came back. He went off, but he'd gone and came back several times. And then he went one day and never came back. But he tried before. It wasn't his first attempt.
Yeah.
But he treated it. I don't really know quite how to describe it, but he for a long time had treated death more like a fantasy than of being afraid of life. So actually, I don't think he was afraid of life. It was just more like he fantasized about just not living, and it was very strange how he used to talk.
Yeah.
But I think he was one of the few people you could have sat and had a really open conversation with him about it till he blew in the face, but it would never have changed his mind. He was
and that's
exceptional ones, but
and I think that the thing is that it's just a matter, sort of people who are in that sort of darkness, they don't want to end their life, but they just want the pain to stop. And so it's a matter of trying to show them that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and to show them none of this, life's worth living for, because that's sort of rather a sort of patronizing statement. But it's showing them that they are valued, showing them that this actually is temporary. I mean, I always sort of say, I liken sort of depression and suicidal thoughts as the clouds in the sky, in that there is always blue sky there. Without fail, it's always there. And the clouds can come and go, and they can be sort of light and fluffy one day, and they can skip through the sky and disappear, or they can descend in that whiteness that just sort of just hangs there and stays for days. Or it can be that really dark, oppressive, sort of that energy-ridden sort of, the darkness. But behind that, when it clears, there is always that blue sky there. The weather, which a bit like our sort of dark days in mental health, it's not permanent, and we do have ups and downs. And if there is a darkness at the minute, there will be good times ahead. But it's a matter, sometimes, if you want to get to the good times ahead quicker, then seek support, go on medication, speak to someone that whose advice you treasure. Or whose advice you respect, because that is going to be the way that gets you out of that hole quicker.
And it's a good point, actually. Like you said, not patronizing, but helping them realize they might not understand now why they're being offered all that support, but it will come. And I think another thing that's really important to touch on is a fear of emotions, because it's like some people are afraid of spiders or afraid of heights, and some are afraid of deep water. I think, when you talk about emotions being like water, as in they flow and they ebb, and I think for some people are afraid of those depths of emotions and actually being drawn into that. But that fear itself actually takes them in the very place they're afraid of being.
Yes.
I think that is actually probably one of the biggest times that leads to suicide, is because they're so afraid of the emotions that they're afraid of feeling like that for so long that the fear drags them down as much as the depression. It's like the anxiety. And I love the ways one of my speakers, Rory Berry, he talks about this, because he talks about the power of play and improv. I've had him on the show twice now, but he talks about, when you're worried about something or you get anxious, and then you beat yourself up for being anxious about it, and then you get anxious because you beat yourself up about it, and he said, like onions and layers and building up. And I think that's a similar sort of thing with that fear in the depths. And I know that was one of the things that got my son. I'm afraid of becoming this bad person.
Yes.
So I'm worried about becoming that bad person. And because I'm worried about it, I get depressed. And because I'm depressed, I'm more likely to become that bad person. And it's kind of this anxiety built up that he's going to become this evil person because he was depressed and anxious and worried and stressed. And it was a lot to carry. And then I think the other part was realizing, when you talk about helping somebody out of stress, anxiety, depression, and all these teenage emotions, is for them to realize that I think the last thing that they almost hold on to there is a sense of self-identity, even though it's lost in amongst all of his emotions. And they're afraid, and I know certainly for him, because he was quite creative with writing, and he was afraid that if we cured him, that he would lose his personality rather than bring more of it out. And that was another big thing to make him realise that actually it's not going to take away who he is. We're just going to improve who he is.
Yeah.
We're going to grow who he is, not take it away.
Yeah.
And I think little things like that are all so important. If you are somebody watching this and you're going through depression, my goodness sakes, it is coming out of depression and being cured. And again, talking that little colour cycle, it's having that desire to be happy and learning to let go of that fear of being in the depression. I know it sounds so easy talking about it, and it's not, but it's about having to make that real, absolute, purposeful decision. I'm here in depression. There's happiness. I have to walk towards it because it's not going to come to me.
But that's and I was reading something yesterday, and it was basically sort of it had your emotions on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 18, and 18 being the sort of grief and depression and fear, and 1 being absolute joy. And the thing is that you are not going to be able to get from 18 to 1 immediately. But what you can do, and the thing is I think anger was somewhere like number 12. And it's sort of what they sort of said is, because when you've got that fear and that depression, it's just dark, it's bleak, and it's heavy and static. Whereas anger has a bit more frisson to it. Anger has a bit more energy to it. And the very fact that you manage to get there is a cause for celebration, because oh my God, look how far I've come. I'm on 12 instead of 18 or whatever. But what happens is, the people around us, when they see us on anger, because we're doing stuff, and it's like, oh no, we don't want to see that. Whereas depression is just for them nearly unrecognizable. And so what the person does is, oh well, I've we are they're nearly sort of beaten back to going back the scale. And what they should be doing is being encouraged to come out and keep going, to find joy and happiness and whatever. But anger is that thing that's quite scary, because it sort of manifests itself a bit more to the outsider. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And again, looking at the colour cycle, and hi Paul, we've got somebody. Being a teenager is a really bewildering time of trying to find your identity and a sense of self. And there is huge pressure on teenagers to know what they're supposed to be. So, and it's just too much, absolutely too much. Most adults don't know. So yeah, if you catch this on replay later, Paula, we sort of pretty much had a very similar conversation at the beginning of the session like that. But yeah, I think a lot of this pressure leads to depression, anxiety. Absolutely. Go and catch the replay later, because yeah, we did cover that at the very beginning. But yeah, you say, looking at the little emotional diagram, I will get it right one day up there. We're talking about depression. The only way to go from happiness to depression is because something makes you sad or something makes you angry, and it overwhelms and weighs on you over time. So when you're talking about, anger is actually progress, because they're working back up through it. And it's so important to follow that route back up through.
And so it's up to us who is maybe on the outside, be it parents or carers or whoever, to understand that just because they haven't leapt from depression to joy doesn't mean that we still need to encourage that movement forward, even though it might look like a backward step, really. So.
I think the thing to recognise as well, it's important for teenagers and the parents to understand that actually going straight from depression through to joy and happiness is only going to be, so you might think, oh, they're really happy today, but it might be because there's something specific giving them that sort of rush of dopamine in that moment or that day, some circumstance. Or the only other way to get there is through all the alternative routes, the habits and the addictions. But unless, you can keep doing an addiction like your Game Boy, being on the phone, talking to your mates all the time. And you can do all the alternatives, but until you actually stop doing those alternatives and say, right, I need to work through my problems, whether that is angry, whether it's sadness, whatever I've lost, whatever I've got to face up to, not until then are they actually going to get that happiness without all the rest of it dragging them back, getting rid of all that baggage. And no, fully agree with you. And Vet's put well done to both of you tonight, because the hour's up, and she's like, but I think we're throwing the timer out the window tonight. You let us know when you've had enough.
No,
because
I am going to have to. I'm going to have to call it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes, because I have loved ones downstairs, and family. Apart from your hour, Kay, family do come first.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But no, it's been amazing, and I think we're going to have to put you back on before the year's up. We have to finish.
Well, keep me posted. Yeah,
absolutely. So your book, The Teen Toolbox. Before we go, have you got one takeaway from your book you'd like to share, and then I'll put the link in?
God, not really, because it's sort of it's a journey, and it sort of helps parents sort of get, dare I say it, get your own shit together so that you can support your child. The first part of the book is all about that. The second part of the book is what to do when. So there are lots of different scenarios how to cope in with the trials and tribulations that teenagers sort of present. But I think the thing is that seriously, and it might sound very strange, my view is that you should be trusting your own internal radar. Buy the book by all means, and there are lots of takeaways there, but just trust your gut. Because I hear so many parents sort of trying to support their kids and for argument's sake, wanting them tested, and everyone goes, oh no, they're absolutely fine, and yet the parents or the mum just goes, no, something's going on here. And I would say always trust your gut, because when you start trusting your inner radar, that's when you start getting your own internal confidence, and it sort of helps you be a better person and a better parent. So yes, by all means, seek advice, because we need that sometimes to get us there faster. But just follow your own heart, your head and your heart.
I think, you are so spot on there. And again, that was a major part of my journey, because my son was 8 when he was diagnosed with Asperger's. But it took me until then to even, he was 7 before I'd even heard of it. But you saying about gut instinct, the first time I ever said to my mum, it's almost as if he's autistic, and I had no idea what I was saying. I had no idea, but I just said to my mum one day, it's almost as if he's autistic, and I didn't even know about Asperger's. He was 10 weeks old. You see? And I had I knew something was different. My gut instinct told me from even that age, something was different. I just couldn't bond with him, couldn't get that eye contact with him as a baby. Babies are born to make eye contact with the mother. And he wouldn't. I couldn't even tell you what colour his eyes were at 10 weeks old, because he's like, all around the room, but not look at me.
That's it. So
do you know what, we need to have that as another conversation, I think, about how to help mothers through that instinct and trust. I think that needs to be a whole separate topic. That's brilliant.
It's important as well.
Well, thank you ever so much tonight, Kai.
All right, my love. Well, listen, it was lovely chatting to you. Thank you. And
you're welcome.
Who are watching.
So I'll put a link into your book, and I'll put a link into the podcast from last Tuesday as well. Just to let everybody know, next week I've got a lady named Tessa L. Richter coming on, and I didn't note down what she's talking about. She did message me today. I'll put the event. I feel awful now. I have just gone blank, but we have got a speaker for next week and the week after, and then I'm trying to get somebody else scheduled in after that, who is somebody who's another very special part of my journey of where I am now.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
Got another mystery speaker coming up, somebody very, very exciting. But well, thank you so much tonight. Thank you to everybody for watching in, and if you're on replay as well, put some likes and comments, and the same if you catch it on YouTube, because it's all going on YouTube afterwards. Just put some likes, comments, follow, subscribe me and Kai, follow us both. Let us know what you thought, and put any questions down. We'll follow them through afterwards. Thank you, everybody. Yes, that's my new one. Hugs and healing to you all. Good night.
All right then. Thank you.